Hello, and welcome to this bonus episode of the 27th Inning. I am your host, Michael Grinnell. As the 2021 MLB Draft comes to a close, you'll hear today from a selection of former MLB players as they talk about their memories of being drafted. In these clips from current and upcoming episodes of the show, you'll hear from players drafted as early as the first round to as late as the 33rd round, as they discuss their memories of hearing that they had been selected and what being drafted meant for them. We'll be back in just a moment, and when we return, you'll hear from the number one overall pick in the 1981 draft, pitcher Mike Moore. Starting off today's show, you'll hear from pitcher Mike Moore, who was drafted with the number one overall pick in the 1981 draft by the Seattle Mariners.
Well, it was kind of interesting, I think it's just the fact that I'm an old guy now, but it didn't seem to be that much of a big deal then, or at least not as much of a big deal was made out of it. I was actually playing in a slow pitch softball tournament in Oklahoma City and had to get tracked down to fly to Seattle because they told me I was going to be the first pick. So in those days, like I said, it was a little different. You went to the worst team, which was not very good in my case, going to Seattle, and the number one pick, and I believe I was the first ever right-handed pitcher drafted number one in the draft, and in 1981 that was worth $100,000.
Now, you had been drafted in the third round in 1978 out of high school. Talk about why you chose to turn that down and how it ended up paying off for you, being able to say that you were the number one overall pick a few years later.
Well, it worked out pretty good. A couple of reasons. Actually, my mom really thought it would be best that I go to college and maybe mature a little bit because anyone that's ever heard of Eakley, Oklahoma, that's pretty amazing in its own right. But Eakley's a town then of about 250 people, so there's a big wide world out there that you don't know a whole lot about. And also through the grapevine, one of my little league coaches was also Coach Johnny Bench when he was growing up, and through the grapevine, Johnny had sent word that it'd be best if I'd go to college and not beat around in the minor leagues and have a chance to mature baseball-wise as well as physically and mentally in college. And so with those, with my mom and with word through the grapevine from Johnny, I ended up going to college.
Now, here's former pitcher Lary Sorensen, who was drafted in the 8th round of the 1976 draft by the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, it was my junior year of college, and we had played in the regionals against Eastern Michigan, who defeated us and went on to the College World Series. But really had no way at that time of getting the information because it wasn't the big deal that it is today. And so I was dating a woman at the time that worked at a radio station, so she was watching the wire service to let me know, and that's how I actually found out. And what's funny about it is I had worked out for the California Angels at Tiger Stadium about a week and a half before, and Bobby Valentine was there, and Andy Etchebarren, who later became a teammate, was the guy that caught me in the bullpen, and Norm Sherry was their pitching coach, who was my pitching coach later on. And I got a call from the Angel scout that said, no way you'll get by us in the 5th round. And so I went to Milwaukee in the 8th. So that's the way the process works.
Next up is former catcher Landon Powell, who was selected by the Oakland Athletics with the 24th overall pick in the 2004 draft.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was, that's another one of those bucket list items as a baseball player to dream of being a first-round draft pick. So, yeah, I was a 20th round pick, I think it was, something like that, my junior year by the Cubs. And I turned it down to go back for my senior year. And, then my senior year, I had a better season statistically. And the A's had like a little Moneyball draft kind of that year. It was their second Moneyball. So they had a bunch of picks available. And, it worked out well that they chose me with their first pick. And I will never, I was sitting in my, sitting with family and with my coaches and everything, listening to the computer when the name got called, and just kind of one of those feelings. It's like you're numb, you can't believe it, and that kind of it made me realize right then that I had a legitimate shot at being a big leaguer, and that had always been my dream. So that was just kind of another rung of the ladder, I guess. Another step of the ladder that I was able to get there, and now I get to go play and start playing professionally and see if I can get to the big leagues.
Here's former first baseman Chris Shelton, who was taken by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 33rd round of the 2001 draft.
It was exciting. I don't, to be honest, Pittsburgh wasn't really on my radar. They were one of the teams that had expressed interest, but not as much interest. And so when they said that it was going to be the Pirates had taken me, it was a little shocking that it was Pittsburgh, but I was ecstatic. I thought it was going to be a fun time, and it was going to be a new adventure, and it was just exciting, to know that you've reached a dream of yours, and it's another step in the process of getting to your ultimate dream.
Now, former utility player Brent Lillibridge talks about being drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 4th round of the 2005 draft.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was probably one of the first years where we could kind of track online. Now, obviously, everything's easily accessible on Twitter and all that stuff, but we could actually track everything basically online. It was submitted, and then you get a phone call later, or within those couple of minutes. And the crazy part is we did it at my apartment in Seattle, off Sandpoint Way, just out of University Village. And I got my parents to come there. Hey, let's just do it here. I have my friends, and we were just kind of hanging around. There was like any draft, you have talks of like, hey, be between early 2nd round to 4th round, 5th round, that kind of stuff. So optimistic that was going to be in a higher pick and stuff like that. But we're probably going through the 2nd round, and all of a sudden my internet went out. So there we all sitting around a really, a computer that's slow in the first place. Internet's going out. I think back then it must have been DSL. So it was like I was always finicky no matter what. I'm 37 years old, so that was my high school life. Of this DSL would just go in and out all the time for no reason, and you're plugging it in, you're unplugging it, just trying to find just like almost like an old Nintendo. We were trying to do all these old school ideas of just like blowing on it, hitting on it, or something like that to make it work. But it turned out by about the 3rd round, we lost it from the 2nd round to about the 3rd round. No phone calls, so I assumed I was still good. And then we watched my name pop up with the Pirates, and obviously at that moment, like the excitement, and also kind of like closing a part of my life of a college athlete as an amateur, of all the hard work I put into, hey, no matter what, no one can take away that I'm a professional now. And it's a very exciting time, but at the same time, I was like, okay, so what's next? And the great conversation, getting here from my scout, and then obviously organization, and then kind of the quick roundup to get guys where we needed to be. And I got an opportunity to go to Pittsburgh. The top 5 picks went to Pittsburgh, and we did a walk around the stadium. That was with me, Andrew McCutcheon, and a couple other guys who were pretty highly touted, didn't make to the big leagues, but and got to meet, the team was out of town, but we got to meet some of the other guys around there. And yeah, it was just such a joy to see, like, this is where I'm going to play someday, which naively thought, yeah, of course I'll be in the big leagues with the Pirates, right? There's no other team that I'm going to be playing for, right? There's no transaction in Major League Baseball. That's crazy. So what a great experience. But it was just, my mindset was always, more than anything, was just, okay, next step, right? Okay, this is done. I'm excited. I'm celebrating. I got to get ready, for what pro ball is going to look like and where I'll be. And that was the experience and excitement of just getting started with a professional career.
Now here's former catcher Scott Bradley, who was drafted by the New York Yankees in the 3rd round of the 1981 draft.
Growing up in New Jersey and being a Yankee fan, we lived half an hour away from Yankee Stadium. So my dad made sure that we had a chance to, go to multiple games every year to really appreciate and watch, Mickey Mantle and, some of the Roger Maris. I was a little young at that point, but to really get the feeling of what it's like to be a Yankee fan in the tri-state area. When the phone rang and it was a scout named Jim Grusdis, said that, with the New York Yankees and that they had selected me. It didn't sink in immediately. And then he asked the next day if we could go into the stadium and meet him. And, my dad and I went into Yankee Stadium. I probably signed the contract as soon as they put it in front of me. It wasn't like we had agents back at that point. I wanted to make sure that they didn't change their mind. So I put my name on the paper as soon as I could. And then we had a chance to go into the Yankee clubhouse. And for anybody that sort of knows about Yankee history and tradition, legendary clubhouse guy Pete Sheehy, who started working for the Yankees when Babe Ruth asked him to help carry his bags into the stadium, showed us around, gave me a Yankee hat, and it's something I'll just never forget. And I really developed a nice relationship with Pete because of that first day when I went in to sign.
Former pitcher Mark Wohlers now talks about being drafted by the Atlanta Braves in the 8th round of the 1988 draft.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I, obviously it was my senior year in high school, and the area scout, Paul Riccarini, gave me a call, said, the Atlanta Braves drafted me in the 8th round, and, they'd be in touch with all the details as far as stuff afterwards, but it was exciting. There weren't a whole lot of people in my area that had gone through the process. So I was really kind of like going at it about my own, trying to figure stuff out. But, I had signed the letter of intent to play college baseball at the University of Maine. But once that opportunity arose to play professional baseball, to me, it was just a no-brainer. I knew I was, I knew I was going to sign with the Braves and start my professional career.
Next up, former pitcher Bronson Arroyo talks about being drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 3rd round of the 1995 draft.
Yeah, pretty exciting. I mean, being an amateur player, there's just something very special about being able to put on a Pittsburgh Pirates hat as an 18-year-old kid and be like, hey, I'm going to maybe play for these guys in the big leagues one day. And, just thinking about the first time you're going to get a baseball card or something like that, I mean, it's just super exciting. And so I remember I was actually getting a haircut when I got the call. There was no cell phones back then. So 1995, my parents got the call. And the Pirates said they drafted me in the 3rd round, 69th pick overall. And I knew I was going to be drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. I was hoping for the 3rd, but I wasn't sure if anybody was going to take me before the 4th round started. And so it was a pleasant surprise. And I really didn't care who drafted me. I wasn't really like a huge fan of anybody growing up as a kid, except the St. Louis Cardinals, because Ozzie Smith was my favorite player. But I just wanted to be drafted high enough that I felt like it was worth foregoing college for. And so being picked in the 3rd round, I knew I was going to sign. I mean, the money didn't mean anything to me. I just wanted an obligation from an organization that I thought they valued me at a level that was, pretty unique. And I was just wanting to get the ball rolling, because I didn't want to sit in college for 3 years. I figured in 3 years, there's a chance I could be in a high air in AA. And I thought that was well worth the risk.
Now, hear from former pitcher Bret Saberhagen as he talks about being chosen in the 19th round of the 1982 draft by the Kansas City Royals. Now, a note to those listening, there was a microphone issue during this interview, so the noise level will be louder with this clip than with the other clips in this episode. You may wish to turn down the volume a couple clicks before the beginning of this segment.
Well, I wasn't really sure if that was going to happen or not. I was my senior year in high school. Scouts came out right after basketball season and very highly recruited by a bunch of different people. Had some arm problems, came out of basketball not ready to throw the ball as hard as I did. Didn't prepare for that season, almost kind of like taking a spring training and having some arm problems. So, I was thinking about going to USC just because of the 19th round. I was told by the Royals that I would be drafted no later than the 9th round. And then when they drafted me in the 19th round, I went to the postseason and threw 3 out of 4 games and won a championship at Dodger Stadium. And then they decided that they really wanted me. They didn't want me as a shortstop because they did draft me as a shortstop. And they wanted me as a pitcher, which was all right. I was good with whatever they wanted me to do. But at that point in time, it was more of an ego thing, I think, for me, just knowing that, they should have drafted me earlier. They said they were going to draft me earlier. 10 rounds go by, and they finally picked me up. And so the price actually went up. But I was really contemplating going to the University of Southern California. At that time, Randy Johnson and Mark McGuire was part of that team. So it would have been kind of fun playing with them. But as you look back, hindsight, it worked out pretty well for me as well, going to the Royals and the right organization and them needing pitching and some of their veteran guys kind of at the end of their careers.
Here's former pitcher Jerry Royce as he talks about being drafted in the second round of the 1967 draft by the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, I was surprised it was the Cardinals because during the time I played high school and American Legion ball, they were in the background. I knew the scouts because, well, for one, they're the Cardinals, but also I was teammates with the son of the farm director, George Sylvie, in high school. So I knew that there was a presence there. So when draft day came, I didn't know where I would be drafted. I did have a workout with Atlanta at the ballpark in 1967, just before the draft. So I thought that they would be a player as far as the draft was concerned. But when it came time for St. Louis to draft their second round, they opted for me. So the rest, I guess, is history.
Now listen to former outfielder Benny Agbayani, who was taken in the 30th round of the 1993 draft by the New York Mets.
College was great. I love playing in college, playing with all my friends. And, I had a big blast. In 92, I got drafted by the Angels and I opted to stay back in school. And then 93, I got drafted by the Mets. I was really excited. I didn't really anticipate it, but it always been my dream. And, a kid coming out of Hawaii, that was like a slim chance that you were going to get drafted. And I'm glad my coach from Hawaii Pacific University, Boy Eldridge, made us play out in the mainland for like almost 2 months.
And last but not least, here's former first baseman Lyle Overbay, who was drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 18th round of the 1999 draft.
Yeah, that was it was interesting because high school I played outfield. I pitched a little bit in high school, obviously, because you kind of end up just out of lack of pitching. So, but I played outfield in college, and when I got drafted, they called me and said, "Hey, you got drafted, Arizona Diamondbacks, 18th round. You're going to Missoula, and you're going to play first base." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "You got a first baseman's glove?" Because I don't. So, and they're like, yeah, we'll have one there or whatever. But, you look back and see things that happened to you. And that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me as far as making that move to first base, because that gave me an opportunity to play. And I was in front of some really good coaching at the time too. So I was able to get a lot of knowledge real quick and was able to pick it up and do that. But I look back at sometimes in my career too, and I look at other guys' careers and just looking at some of the coaching that I had, it was there. A lot of them are in the big leagues and a lot of them are credible too, just because of what they've done. So I've been very fortunate, and I look back and be like, oh man, some of them guys don't get that. So I was very, very fortunate on that aspect of it.
And that will do it for this bonus episode of the 27th Inning. Make sure to subscribe for future episodes, and you can find the show now on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. If you have suggestions for future guests you'd like to hear from, or questions that you'd like them to answer, drop a comment or send us a message on Instagram at the 27th Inning. And also make sure to give it a follow to get updates on the show and upcoming guests. Check back tomorrow for the next episode of the 27th Inning, where you'll hear from the #1 overall pick in the 1981 MLB Draft, former pitcher and 1989 World Series champion Mike Moore. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.